Welcome everyone to News in History, where in this episode we're going to be documenting the story of Hugh Glass. But before we continue, I want to know, what would you consider to be your biggest accomplishment? Now, a lot of people have seen the movie The Revenant by now, and many are wondering how accurate is the movie really when compared to the actual story of Hugh Glass. The film was based on the novel The Revenant by Michael Punke, but Hugh Glass lived in the 1800s, so many of the facts and stories about him were passed down through word of mouth, making them less reliable. But don't worry guys, I've collected everything there is to know about the real Hugh Glass, well, almost everything there is to know. And if you haven't seen the movie The Revenant and are worried about spoilers, I say proceed with caution or just leave this video right now. I don't want to spoil the surprise for anyone that hasn't seen the movie. If you don't care to see it, keep watching this. Hugh Glass was born in 1783 in Pennsylvania to Scottish-Irish parents who immigrated to the United States. Now there's many rumors about his life before the epic bear attack, and some of those rumors include Hugh Glass being captured by Indians for several years where he fell in love with an Indian woman, as well as Glass being captured by French-American pirates where several years later he escaped. But what we do know about Hugh Glass was that he was a great frontiersman, he was a fur trapper, and he was known as a mountain man. In Eric J. Dolan's Fur, Fortune, and Empire, the epic history of the fur trade in America, he explained that mountain men would spend their springs and autumns trapping animals and getting their furs ready. In the wintertime, these men often camped in groups with their wives and families, and while living in the wild, they adapted what we would call a super intense paleo diet. They would consume over 10 pounds of meat every single day, and rather than using bread, they replaced bread with strips of buffalo fat. Yeah, sounds pretty tasty. But anyways, in regards to Glass now, he had a pivotal role in the western expansion of the fur trade, and in 1823 he would sign up for an expedition led by General William Henry Ashley and Major Andrew Henry that would change his life forever, and thus creating the legend that we have today. Now right off the bat, the expedition wasn't going exactly how Glass had planned it. In a battle with the Arikara tribe on the shores of the Missouri River, he was shot in the leg. Now the loss from the battle was so great that they had to change course and go back to their main camp. The Arikara had killed more than half of their men and took most of their furs. Now on the way back, Hugh Glass went ahead of the small group to desperately hunt for more fur to make up for their losses. Now there in the Grand River Valley, that's where he ran into the mother grizzly. The mother grizzly was there along with her two cubs. And now according to Eric J. Dolan's book, it all happened so quick and Glass didn't have time to prepare his gun. Now this fight was brutal. The mother bear had grabbed him by his throat and shoulder, slammed him into the ground, and bit off a chunk of his flesh, and then took that flesh, turned, and fed it to her baby cub. She had ripped his scalp, punctured his throat. Hugh Glass was left with broken legs, as well as many other gashes on his skin. Luckily, the group that he was traveling with heard his screams for help. They came, they ended up killing the mother bear, but obviously after a beating like that, Hugh wasn't able to walk at all, so they used branches to carry him. But a couple days on the journey now, the group's leader Andrew Henry realized that this whole thing was jeopardizing the future of the group. Carrying somebody left you very vulnerable to attacks. So this is where he offered an award of several months' wages for anyone that would remain back with Hugh Glass and stay with him until he passed away, because he was in such terrible shape. Now the two people that volunteered were John Fitzgerald and 19-year-old James Bridger, and they also promised that they would give Hugh Glass a proper burial at the time of his death. But after 5 days, Glass did not die, and the men grew very frustrated, and that's when John Fitzgerald convinced James Bridger to abandon Hugh Glass and just say that he died. And to support their lie, the two men would take Glass's tomahawk knife, flint, and hunting rifle with them, because why would a dead man need these things. So they abandoned him. They just left him for dead. But in the meantime, Hugh Glass was eventually able to regain his strength. It's believed that he fed on berries and insects as well as hydrated himself from spring water for about 10 days. After that, he found a pack of wolves eating a buffalo. He was able to scare off the wolves and eat the buffalo himself, and that gave him strength to carry on and make it to the next trading post. Now, this was approximately 350 miles away from where he started from. Talk about determination. Now, when he arrived there, the two men that abandoned him weren't there, so he continued on. Now, the overall distance that Glass traveled on his 6-week journey has grown along with the legend from 80 to 100 to 200 miles. In Frederick Manford's 1954 biography titled Lord Grizzly, he said this: "Not only had Hugh done a great thing in crawling back to safety after he was almost killed, but after he had figured out who deserted him, he chased them down, caught them, and then let them go." That was an act that put him above Achilles. In fact, Hugh Glass had performed his heroics while completely alone. Achilles always had a contingent of Greek warriors nearby. Now that is crazy to not take revenge on the people that left you for dead. You know, most of us right away would have been like, "You left me for dead?" And the rest would be history. But it just goes to show you how amazing of a mountain man this guy actually was. Now, there's little known about what happened to Hugh Glass in his later years, but we do know that he was employed by Fort Union as a hunter right at the mouth of the Yellowstone River. And this is where Glass would eventually end up dying. A report in the Milwaukee Journal states, "A visitor at Fort Union shared such an account of Hugh Glass's death. Old Glass with 2 companions had gone to Fort Cass to hunt bear on the Yellowstone, and as they were crossing the river on the ice, all 3 were shot and scalped by a war party of 30 Arikaras." Ouch, what a crazy way to go, but at least he went in the heat of war. The story of Glass's bear attack first appeared in an 1825 Philadelphia literary journal by a local lawyer hoping for success, and his hopes were granted. That's where the story began to spread like wildfire. Now, the movie The Revenant, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, has been nominated for the Best Picture, and it will be announced at the 2016 Oscars ceremony. But sadly, yes, this video will be up before then, so let's just see if the movie wins. And also, Leonardo DiCaprio has been nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role, so we also gotta wait and see if he's gonna now be known as Academy Award winner Leonardo DiCaprio. Because I mean, it's a long time coming. It's about time, Leo. It's about time. But there you have it. That wraps up this episode of News in History. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy these videos, don't forget to hit the like button, as well as tune in each and every single week for more news in history, as well as throughout the week for your daily news here on FTD News. Until next time, I'm Leroy Kenton. Peace.